The Canon EOS R5 has been the most anticipated camera ever. Any video I produce on the R5 performs very, very well. And in today's Q&A session, I have several questions on the R5 from pricing to availability and announcement. Let's get into it.
Delivering informative capability-based reviews and tutorials on camera gear, filming techniques, and content creation.
Hi, I'm Simon, and this is The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, subscribe to get notification of new videos as they come out. And all the links to everything I talk about in this video, including gear discussed, are placed in the description down below. I have 4 viewer questions today. They are listed down below in the description, along with their time code, so if you want to skip to any of them, feel free to do so. The first question is from Stephen. Did you hear back from Craig on the R5 announcement being in July? Yes, I did. Now, first, a bit of a background on this. Last week, Craig reported on the EOS R5 price, and he said it wasn't going to cost over $4,000, so somewhere under $3,399.99. Now, I have my own pricing information, but that's not the purpose of this. In the last paragraph of Craig's post, you'll see that he says the announcement will happen in July. Now, up until that point, rumors had pointed to a June announcement. Of course, before that, we were hoping to hear something around the time of Keynote. But as everybody knows, there's a lot going on in the world right now. Supply chains are being disrupted. Now, most of the factories are coming back online in China, in Taiwan, and Japan, and elsewhere. But we've had for about, 3 months now, things have been disrupted. So things are getting pushed despite Canon's plans to have this announced right around Keynote. So Craig, I reached out to Craig and said, Craig, is this a typo? Did you mean July? And Craig said, yes, July. It's a CR3, so it's coming from known sources, and it has been validated. But again, a tiny bit of grain of salt is expected at this point because so many things are happening. Plans are being changed. But yeah, Stephen, July is when we're supposed to be getting the rumored announcement for the R5. Or so we're supposed to be getting the announcement for the R5. Mr. Zen asks, curious to know what you think about the rumored price of the Canon R5 and how it'll affect both new and second-hand EOS R and other cameras in the range. I'm thinking of getting into full frame, but not ready to spend lots of money on the R5 just yet. Okay, well, there's a lot to dig into here. First off, here's how I came up with my price for the R5. Canon, a little while back, said the R5 is a 5 Series camera. So what does that mean? Well, the last R Series camera we had was the 5D Mark IV. I'm not talking about the R, the RS, the high megapixel versions of the 5D, but the 5D Mark IV came out in 2016, the end of 2016, for a price of $34.99 US. So if I take that price and I add inflation of, let's say, around 2.2% a year, and I do that for 4 years, we come up with a price of $38.17. Now, marketing folks would probably round that down to $37.99. So that's where I came up with my price for $37.99. Now, nobody's telling me that. That's just using pure analysis, looking at existing products in the range and to see what Canon might do to the price. Sure, in the past, Canon has jumped the price of the 5D as it goes up in versions. But I think if they start pushing the price of this too much further, it's really going to affect the market that they're going to be able to sell this into. So that's where I came up with my price. I think $37.99, right around there, within plus or minus $200, is a pretty safe bet. Some people are also thinking that Sony's going to come out and drop the price of their A7, the next A7 camera, whether it be the S3 or the A7 IV, and if they do that, that would also put further pricing pressure. Now, in terms of the price of used gear or even new EOS R, when the R5 is announced, I do expect that we'll get a price drop in the R, in terms of both new and used, but I think you're going to see the best bang for your buck in the used market. Now, there's plenty of sites online. I think pricegrabber.ca or priceshopper.ca. There's others in the US as well. And what they'll do is they'll show you the ranging price. Now, what's going to happen? The price right now, the EOS R is already down a little bit. But once we get to that announcement, the price is going to drop even further. Well, and it will depend largely on how well it's received. Now, we've got a lot of pent-up interest in the R5. And if Canon announces the detailed specifications of the R5 and they're really well received, then that'll put more pricing pressure on it because people of the EOS R are going to want to sell it, put it onto the market, and of course, drop the price further. Now, once the R5 is available for sale, we'll probably see a further price decrease. And who knows what Canon's going to do with the EOS R. Are they going to kill that camera at that point? Because I really think that the R6 is going to take the place of the EOS R in the marketplace. So I really don't see much use for the EOS R once the R6 is available for sale. David asks, do you have video or photography work of your own out in public? What do you like to photograph or film? I bet your viewers would love to enjoy knowing a little bit more about your creativity. No, I don't really do anything that's out there in the public. A lot of the filming I do is of regular people, of children as they grow up. So I usually, quite often, I'll either go to a birthday party and film that, or I'm given a lot of video and I'm asked to create some sort of a montage or some sort of film that captures the emotion of the event. So I do a lot of that stuff. So it's a lot of the unsung stuff that you're not going to see. But what do I like to film? What do I like to shoot? Well, it depends. What I love to film is, well, almost everything. I love to film people in action. I love to film my son as he grows up, and that's really cool. There's nothing like that, watching your son grow up, because things happen so very, very fast. And if you don't take the effort to capture those moments as it happens, then before long, years have gone by and you missed all that. And because, you know, I'm almost 50 and I think back and I can barely remember some of those days, but then I put on one of his films and they're a montage of basically an entire year. So I can see him grow up over that year. I can see the different things that he's encountered, and that's very, very touching. In terms of photography, oh, I love to travel. I love to capture where I go. I love to capture what I see. I love to capture landscapes. Landscapes untouched, without people in the, you know, trying to grab a portrait in there. Just capture the landscape as beautiful as it is. Here in North America, I used to do a lot of day trips. Get in the car, take my camera with me, and just shoot photography. Not video, just photography. I'd get great shots of a lot of the east, central Canada, northeastern United States, but also recently traveling to Paris, I got a lot of great shots there. So I love to just capture the moments. But with video is nice because you can play around with it a bit more. You can add a score, you can add music, so you can really pull on the emotions a little bit more. And I think that's where video is a little bit more emotional. With photos, it's visual that triggers your memory. With video, not only are you getting that visual, but you're getting that sound, and you can very much feel that. So you're working on more than one sense to create that emotion. And my last question comes from Brian. I'd like to know how you became interested in video work. You've mentioned that you're more video-centric. Have you always wanted to work in the video space? What was your first job? I graduated university and I'm hesitant about how to land my first job as a videographer/editor. I have plenty of experience being a freelancer, yet I was wondering if you have any tips. Well, there's a lot to unpack there as well. I won't say my first job because I started out as a young kid going out shoveling driveways and raking leaves before the age of 10 to make money. But my first real job, I guess, in video was when I was in college. I think it was my junior or senior year. I think it was my junior year. Now back then, this is going back a long time, we didn't have nonlinear editing system. In fact, the idea that you would use a computer to do video editing was completely new. Back, I'd say it was around the mid to late 80s, I picked up a computer called the Amiga 500, and the Amiga was revolutionary back then. It was so revolutionary that most people, including the company that made it, wasn't quite sure what to do with it. But in the late 80s, the Amiga, in combination with companies like NewTek, created a product called the Video Toaster. Now, the Video Toaster was very revolutionary because you could take Sony Beta players and recorders, connect them up, other half-inch and three-quarter-inch tape machines, connect them all up, and what the Amiga would do is pretty much what you can do in Final Cut Pro or Premiere these days. Only you were queuing up tape machines. And back then, you really had to get it right the first time, because every time you rewrote to that tape, you were degrading the image. Not like today where you can try it many times. So I was around, I guess, my early 20s, and I really loved working with the Amiga. I really loved video. I was not good. I couldn't paint. I couldn't really draw. And so I had this sense that I wanted to create, but I didn't have the tools to do it. And this Amiga, this computer, allowed me to channel my creative energy, and I really loved that about video. And back then, a computer to do video was about probably around $5,000 to $6,000. A well-kitted out Amiga was $5,000 to $6,000 without any of the other video equipment. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but remember, that was in about $1992. But before the Amiga came out, to do the same thing, you were looking at $100,000, and you usually had to go to a professional studio to get it done. So that's how I got started. But once I left college, I got out of video because I was warned by several people. At the time, I was going to school down in Kentucky, and I was warned, no, there's no money in this. And, you know, you're going to school, you're building up some college debt, and people are telling you there's no money in this. I ran, and I didn't come back to video until almost when my son was born. I went into photography, and I stayed into photography, and I loved photography. But when my son was born, my wife said, you really need to document this, go out and get a camera. I was shooting with the Canon 50D at the time, so I went to my local camera store. And I didn't know really much about video at that time. I'd been away for so long, and I asked, what can you give me that does video? And he saw that I had a Canon 50D. He said, why don't you just get the 70D? I said, does it produce really good video? He says, yeah, no, it's a great camera. It's just come out. And I started documenting my son, and I would create videos, and then friends would say, wow, that's really cool. Here's my video files. Could you fix this? Could you color correct it? Could you do something with this as well? Other friends would say, oh, my son just had a birthday party. Could you do something for us there too? So it started to snowball from there. And then, of course, last year, I started this YouTube channel in October. And that steamrolled things again. But in terms of what tips do I have for you? Well, it's like anything starting out. You really have to, don't let rejection get you down. Networking is really, really big. I'd say networking is 80% of anything you're going to do when you're getting started and as you continue your career. You'll get your jobs through networking. There's so many different aspects. One thing you probably need to get an idea of, what kind of video work do you want to do? Do you want to be a videographer or an editor or both, right? There's so much in there. Do you want to work for big budget projects like Hollywood projects? Or do you want to do run and gun documentary style where it's you and maybe one or two other guys? There's a TV show that came out on Netflix a couple of years ago called Departures, and it's of these guys are in their, I think they're mid to late 20s, and they decided they wanted to take a year off, and they wanted to travel the world. And to help pay for this, they didn't say this, but it was pretty obvious, to help pay for this, they decided to film the entire thing. He went to two of his friends, and one of the friends was a co-presenter, and the other friend was the videographer. They had an idea, they had a vision, they went for it, they traveled the world, they filmed it, they edited it, and they put it together, and it's pretty good. It's not like anything else out there. So it's hard for me to tell you what you should do. Really think hard about what your vision is, where you want to be, how you want to work. Does creating your own show or documentary appeal to you? What about your own series? Or do you want to be part of, get started in something very big like a Hollywood production where you're working for MGM or any of these other companies? So really try to understand what your goals are, your objectives, and reach out to people. Network like crazy. That's very, very important. No matter what you try to do in this day and age, networking is so very, very important. And also leverage social media where you can. Thank you so much for submitting your questions, and thank you for tuning in to watch. Links to everything I talked about in this video, including gear, are found in the description down below. Thanks so much for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. All equipment used and notes are placed in the description box, show more box, or down arrow thingy next to the title on the mobile app.